All right. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast real estate tip, where every single week I come delivering different tips, tactics, and strategies to help you get shit done inside your real estate business and help you ensure that you are crushing and dominating your overall real estate goals. All right, so today I got a lot of different things I want to cover with you here on the podcast. There's so many different changes taking place simultaneously inside of our industry, man. We got these lawsuits going on. We got crazy inflation going on. We got AI. We got possible market crash. Lots of different things taking place. And there's a lot of changes inside of our industry as well as outside, man. When you look at the overall economy, when you look at our overall country, when you look at, just what's going on overall with the globe, lots of different changes taking place simultaneously on all different fronts. But this is a real estate podcast, so we're going to stay specific and keep to our lane here of talking about real estate. But today I'm going to be talking about, again, the lawsuits, inflation, AI, possible market crash, and most importantly, what to do to position yourself to go out there and not just survive, but go out there and thrive and crush it. Because unfortunately, I do not think that most are going to make it through these changes that we are seeing. Most have such resistance to change. It's easier for them to just go bury their head in the damn sand, be that ostrich, not pay attention. So they're not going to be in a position to navigate through this. And when I say that, I don't believe that most are going to make it, that most fail. Look, we all know the stats. We hear these all the time that, what's it, close to 90%, roughly 90% of realtors don't make it in their first 3 to 5 years. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about, I would not be surprised at all within 10 years from now, if we go from 1.6 million realtors down to 500,000 realtors, right? Or real estate professionals in the industry. So it's that much more important because it's been this, this way now for a couple of years, where the best operator wins. You can no longer wing it. You can no longer just, be an amateur and just try to wing it and just try to get by. No, it's like you got to treat your business as a business, be a great operator. All things we're going to break down and talk about here today in the podcast. So we're going to talk about these different topics and how to go out there and best position yourself. And the reason why I'm stressing and emphasizing that we're best positioning is look, we need to make sure that we are in the best spot to go out there and succeed. And if you've been listening and watching this podcast for a long time, I'm all about hoping for the best, planning for the worst. So if we look at these and we assess and break down, okay, let's just look at the lawsuits, and I'll go into this deeper here in a moment. But if I look at this, okay, well, what's best case scenario? What's worst case scenario? Okay, let me prep and plan for both of those. And then however this plays out, hopefully I prepped and planned accordingly and my business is good to go either way. Most people, it's so easy to just ignore this stuff. It's so easy to bury our head in the sand like the damn ostrich and not pay attention to stuff, and just to be naive and think, oh, this isn't going to happen. This won't take place. Oh, there's no way the market's going to crash. The supply and demand. Oh, they don't do mortgages. They don't do subprime anymore. Yeah, they do. Right? They just replaced subprime with FHA. Yeah, right. FHA became subprime, right? So they're maybe not in the same exact way. History doesn't always repeat, but it sure as shit does rhyme, right? And I'm not saying the market's going to crash by any means, but I'm hoping for the best, planning for the worst in both possible ways. The probability of it crashing is every bit as strong as it not crashing. Right. So that's what we're going to break down here, making sure that, again, that you are most prepared. The thing that I want to stress here is look, before we jump in here. So I am not a doom and gloom kind of a person. This is not a Chicken Little skies falling. This is not fear porn, clickbait. It's not, trying to fear you. That's not my style, man. I'm very optimistic about the future. I'm excited for the future. I think for those of us that do navigate through this accordingly, look, there's as many rooftops, the population, staying strong right here in the United States. I mean, yeah, we have a declining population, declining birth rate, but, for the rest of our careers, there's going to still be a lot of people and a lot of real estate being had. And when you go from 1.6 million realtors down to 500,000 realtors, that just means there's a bigger piece of the pie for those of us that are extremely serious. So look, I'm very excited and optimistic about the future, but I'm also a realist. Right? Like I'm not going to allow myself to be naive and not prep and plan accordingly for how these different things can go out there and play out. So we gotta pay attention to what's going on and not go out there and fear change, not go out there and have resistance to change. Look, I learned a long time ago on my success journey that change is something that's always taken place, always is taking place, always has taken place, always will take place. So why have resistance and fear something that always is? That would be like me having resistance and fear to gravity. No, gravity is a law of the universe. I understand it exists. Same thing with change. Change is always taking place, always is, always going to. So why have fear and why have resistance to a law of the universe, yeah, right, when it comes to this. All right, so we're going to break these down again. We're going to talk about lawsuits, talking about AI, talking about inflation, possible market crash, and most importantly, how to structure our businesses and position ourselves to ensure that we're crushing and succeeding, whether an individual agent, team leader, broker owner, that you and your agents are not just again surviving, but thriving. Now, real quick, before we jump into this though, if you are a real estate agent, team leader, or broker owner, your business is not exactly where you want and need it to be, I invite you to schedule a 100% free, zero pressure Zoom call with me personally. We're going to do a deep dive into your business and get you dialed in. When I say your business is not exactly where you want it to be, it's like, look, maybe your business is declining. Maybe you're struggling. Maybe your business is, going good. It's just skating by, just staying stagnant, but not growing. Maybe it's even growing, just not growing at the pace that you want it to grow at. It's like your business is here, but you want to be up here, and your full potential is way up here. You just do not know exactly what you need to do to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. Or, hey man, again, maybe things are going good. You just want a second set of eyeballs on your business, and just be able to get, some feedback and be able to mastermind together about your business. It's a chance for you to go out there and do that 100% free, 100% zero pressure. It's going to be a 1 hour long Zoom call with me personally. I'm going to break down where your business is at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals, visions are for your business, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are. Then from there, I'm going to tell you exactly, hey, if I were you, if we were to switch places, here's exactly precisely what I would do to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. And I will make sure, you have my word on this, I will make sure by the time you leave this Zoom call, you know exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where it is that you want to go. Now, I've been doing these now for about, 2 months now. And I love them. I enjoy them. It's been awesome jamming with you guys, talking with you guys, helping you guys get dialed in. So much great feedback on how powerful these have been for you guys and the impact that these are making on you guys. But I want to be very clear on this. I can't do these forever. Usually I charge $1,000 an hour for a real estate consult. I can't do these forever. I've been doing them because I understand a lot of you are struggling, and I just was something I wanted to do just to give back to all my amazing GSD mode peeps and clients, listeners and watchers of this podcast that supported me for so long over the years. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is, look, this isn't something that's sustainable for me to do forever. So, can't do this for that much longer. So don't wait to go out there and book this. If you're thinking, oh, I'll do this, but I'll do it, months from now, look, you might have lost your opportunity there. Yeah, right. So if this is something you want to take advantage of, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call, so we can get you dialed in your business. I promise you, I got your back. I will get you dialed in on these Zoom calls. Okay, so let's jump in here. And again, we're talking about all these different changes. And again, there's a lot of them. And with these, I'm not going to go deep into, because look, I understand that you guys probably know what AI is. You know what's going on with the lawsuits. What I want to speak a little bit more specifically here about is how to go out there and position yourself to create success with these different things. Okay, let's first start with these lawsuits. And by this point, I'm assuming you know what's going on with the lawsuits. Essentially, you got all these, home sellers that got together and, started suing major real estate firms, started suing NAR, basically saying and claiming that they weren't disclosed of how the commission was paid out. They weren't disclosed that they had an option to not pay a buyer's agent, and you can go read the lawsuits. You can go out there and do a deep dive for all of that stuff. But again, what I'm here to talk about is how this possibly could play out. And most importantly, what to do to position ourselves for each of these different things to ensure that we grow, scale, thrive. And again, the very end here, I'm going to go through is just foundational changes that are going to help just universally go out there and allow you to go out there and grow and succeed, regardless of the changes that come, because there's going to be more changes than these, in the future. Change, again, it's always happening, always taking place, always has, always will. So when we look at these lawsuits, right? So again, I'm all about hoping for the best, planning for the worst. If the DOJ, if the consumer gets what they want, which in my opinion, and it's just, my personal humble opinion, which my opinion is irrelevant, doesn't matter. I don't think that these lawsuits are a good thing for the consumer. I don't think it'd be a good thing if buyer agency goes away, but that's what I'm prepping and planning for. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. So I'm planning for, okay, worst case scenario, like best case, okay, things, let's just say things stay the same, stay status quo. If you want to consider that best case, I'm just looking, okay, like, hey, here's the two extremes. So maybe not best case to worst case, depending on what side of this you fall on. So when I'm saying, I'm just looking at the two different extremes. Okay, you got okay, it could stay where it is right now. Maybe there's a little bit more disclosures. I guess certain listing agree. Whatever. There may be more disclosures about it. Whatever. But things maybe stay the same as they are right now with the co-broke and compensation, how it's paid. Okay, like that's this extreme over here, or not extreme, but how it stays status quo. Okay, far extreme. Buyer agency completely goes away. So we are like New Zealand or Australia, and the good news is I've been working with coaching, agents and team leaders and broker owners in countries like New Zealand and Australia and others that don't have buyer agency. And it's not that you don't have buyer agency, right? It's that, okay, like you could, as a buyer, they could go charge this buyer XYZ fees to go out there and represent them, but that just becomes, not commonplace, right? When it's okay. If you just think about yourself as a consumer, okay, well, I can go work with this agent over here to help me go out there and buy this property. But if I got to pay them, let's just say a 3% co-broke, or even a 2% co-broke, or even let's just say it's even a 1% co-broke, and they're buying an $800,000 house. That's $8,000. Or maybe I can just go call this listing agent directly, and save that $8,000 that I wouldn't have to pay. Right. So then from there, now that I'm just talking about like what would be going on in their mind, how this is going to play out, and how does it play out in other countries where if a buyer wants their own representation, they have to pay out of pocket for it. Okay, at least with my experience with my coaching clients in those countries. I haven't lived in those countries. I haven't went out there and sold real estate in those countries, but been very involved in other people's businesses that have created a lot of success in different areas that are structured that way. And they all just become mega freaking badass listing agents, right? So then with this, you don't know how this is going to pan out. I don't know how this is going to pan out. It's actually shocked me and surprised me a little bit of how far it's went. When these first started coming about, I was like, man, over my career, there's been so many threats and lawsuits, it's just come up over and over and over. We're going to change, comp structures. We're going to change. Like, I've never seen it go anywhere near this far, and these massive settlements being paid out, massive lawsuits being paid out. And look, and this is okay, tinfoil hat, if you want to look at it that way. But when I get outside of just real estate and go on a very big macro picture, just seems to be war at the powers that be, seems to be war on small business owner. If you look at what's going on with lawsuits on just gig work altogether and shit that's cracking down, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but, look, there's been 500 fiat currencies prior to the US dollar, or over 500 fiat currencies. They all suffered the same fate. Powers that be cannot control that printing press. It's just too damn tempting. They can't control it. And as this starts to get out of control, right, they crack down. They become more tyrannical. A lot of the different things that we are seeing right now, right? More laws, less, power is a, citizen, right? And they start cracking down on just, different ways they possibly can to just squeeze and collect every single tax dollar, right? Is because they can become desperate. Right. And they know they got to control the population. And when quality of life gets diminished because they debase currency so much, aka inflation so much, it's just more control. And again, they've all suffered the same fate. And you can go out there and study history on your own with that. But with this, it's like, okay, I'm not, and I know going a little bit tinfoil hat here, but look, I think all these things are intentional. When I'm looking at all this shit going on, I'm like, man, and again, I could be wrong here, and I'm open to being wrong, but some of these things, that all these different pieces going on all simultaneously in the same time in different industries, different markets, different things, right? It's the only thing that really necessarily makes sense in my head of why some of these moves are taking place at the times that they're taking place on. So with that being said, it seems like, okay, DOJ, there's a war on, DOJs are just, kind of weaponized against small business, just general population, so, I'm not as confident that these are going to play out in the way that, and when I say the way that I'd like them to play out, I'm just saying that, I think things are going to probably look a lot more different, than maybe a lot of people are thinking in our industry, in the way that I thought. First, again, I thought, oh, these won't hold any weight. I kind of slowly dismissed these initially too, just because it's, normal, what's it, normalcy bias or whatever. Again, I've had so many of these and seen so many of these come up over my 20 years of doing this, but these are going further away, so, okay, what do we do there to go out there and hedge accordingly for these? You need to become, in my opinion, this is what I'm doing, right? Is you become a badass listing agent. Right. Again, with my coaching clients that are in these other countries that own, run and operate large teams or brokerages that are highly successful, that don't have buyer agency, they are badass motherfucking listing agents, right? And getting their agents to go out there and be badass agents. So even my agents on my own team, that maybe crush it with their YouTube channels, which is a lot of reload buyers that are doing a ton of business that, like you wouldn't think, oh, why would they need to be adding anything new to their plate? Because they're just crushing it. I'm like, look, hey, I want everybody on my team. I want everybody I possibly can, all my coaching clients as well, to become badass listing agents. Or if they're in a position where they're, a team leader or a brokerage owner and they're not in production, getting their agents to all become badass listing agents. Even if, like, let's just say, okay, maybe got a, I don't know, Zillow Flex account. Maybe you're doing a YouTube channel and you're going out there and you're popping 4, 5, 6 buyer clients every single month and you're making great money right now. Again, I would still make sure you hone in your skill set on how to go out there and dominate as a listing agent. So when I say how to dominate as a listing agent, I'm not just talking about your listing presentation. Yeah, that's, we gotta, it's all about client acquisition, right? Like, you need to know how to go out there and develop the skill sets to go out there and get to those kitchen tables. So how do I go out there and get, be successful at setting listing appointments, right? So your lead gen, your lead follow-up, all client acquisition all the way through. So we got to be a badass at those things and or get our agents to be badasses at those things, so we can go out there and get used to taking, I don't know, listing a week, 2 listings a week, 3 listings a week, whatever your number is. That is, in my opinion, how we go out there and hedge for this, overall the best. Then from there, I don't want to say equally as important because I don't think it's, I think that is how we plan for worst case scenarios, becoming badass listing agents. So if this goes away, we can control the listings and go out there and dominate with those listings. So I'm so listing focused right now. We're going after divorces. We're going after pre-foreclosures. We're going after absentee owners, going after expireds, going after FSBOs, plus, of course, the listing business that we get from, online sources, plus the listing business that we get from all of our past clients. But we've added a lot of additional things that 3 years ago we weren't doing at all, to go out there and acquire a shit ton of listings and just develop this skill set and get this skill set dialed in. So every one of my agents are listing acquisition freaking, machines there. Then from there, making sure that at the same time, because, like, again, we don't know how this is all going to play out. So at the main time, making sure that you have a buyer consultation in place, that you're treating your buyer consultation every bit as strict as you are your listing presentation, meaning that you're giving it the same time, attention, awareness, focus, with that. So it's like, okay, so when we go through that, like, okay, and I've done this forever now, with my buyer consultation, just because I got sick and tired of, spending so much time with people that weren't willing, able, committed, right. And we all know how those situations go where, I would catch myself early on in my career being like, oh, I'd spent all this time with these people. And then they just, went and bought a house or an open house, and I thought that they were evil, they were bad, they screwed me. And I realized, no, it was my fault. Right. Like, I didn't have a world-class buyer consultation in place. I wasn't treating it the same way as a listing presentation. I wasn't getting, buyer agency and buyer broker agreement signed and educate them on all of those things. Right. Okay. So, 17 years ago, 18 years ago, I developed a badass listing presentation. We've refined it over the years, but we treat our buyer consultation just like we do our listing presentation. Go in there, sit down at a conference room table with them, or educate them on the whole entire process, going through a dream home form, educate them on every step of the, overall process, financial investments, what all these different things mean. Right. Then we go through all the things that we're going to do to commit to them. Then we go through and get the commitment from them. Then we educate and prep them. Okay, hey, well, in the event that you're going through a new build, the event that you're looking at FSBO, and then, like, we educate them on every step of how to handle in every scenario and situation, get that signed buyer broker agreement and so forth. Okay, so that's that, right? So lawsuits. Now let's move into AI. All right, so look, I don't know how AI is going to all pan out, right? And neither do you, neither do any of us, right? So if we can't stop it, if we could put that genie back in the bottle, if we could get the toothpaste back in the tube, probably would have been smart to never, let it out in the first place. But it's out and it ain't stopping and it's just going. So this past weekend, actually just yesterday, downtown Phoenix, my daughter had cheer competition. So we're downtown Phoenix, walking through, I don't know, CVS. No, there's like no workers in there. Like everything's just self-scan, just go in there, buy your things, scan it, right? Been in, dude, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but airports, you walk up to, like this Amazon store, whatever, which is like, like a grocery store, kind of convenience store, right? You insert your credit card, like before you walk in, there's, like those little gate blocks, that like control you to walk into an entrance. I don't know what they're called, but, okay. So you got to, scan your credit card. The gate opens up so you can enter the store. Then from there, you're walking around like there's nobody working. There's nothing in there. Like you just grab what you want to grab and then you walk out. Like you just grab the items you want to grab and then you just walk out. First time I went in, I'm like, dude, I was like, what the fuck? How's this working? Like I felt like, am I stealing shit? Like, I was like, whatever. But dude, like with all the surveillance, all the, whatever, with however they're doing it, whatever, they know exactly what you're taking out. They're scanning it, weighing it, whatever. They're taking the inventory, automatically charging your credit card, out there, right? So you go to, I don't know, fast food or whatever. Not that, hopefully you're not eating fast food a lot, but you go in there, okay, there's more kiosks and more kiosks. And, now there are in certain parts of the country, 100% employee-less, fast food chains. They got, robots flipping burgers and flipping pizzas and flipping fries and, all of this stuff. So, then we're driving around and these have been around for a while, but I'm, looking at them yesterday and we pull up next to one while we're driving and all of a sudden it's just a self-driving car. There's not a human being in there. They're just self-driving Ubers, right? Like they're just like, there's no human beings in there. Right? These things are just, I don't know if you guys have them in your area they're called WAYMO. At least that's I've never went in one. I've never taken one. But Waymo, right? So WAYMO. They have sensors on the top, sensors on the side, but this thing, man, I'm kind of following it around a little bit, driving like it's, flicking its blinker, it's taking its turns, it's driving all around town, man. I'm driving perfectly, no driver, no human being in that vehicle. It's not like just like, oh, I can let go of the steering wheel on my Tesla and let it go. Like, no, this thing wasn't a Tesla. These are, these in my, in Phoenix here, they're Jaguars. But it's just doing its thing, dude. Right. So then from there, and these are kind of some extremes with AI, now of course we got AI that we can use for advantages in our business with, Chat GPT and, one that I use a lot, Opus Clips for my short form video content, with all of this stuff. But, okay, like when you get to a point where, okay, we're getting, with deep fakes through AI, voiceovers, all of this stuff, it's probably might even already be there. We just don't know because I don't know if we're going to have awareness of this, but a lot of the shit that we're going to be seeing online, a lot of the shit that, it's going to take over social media. It's going to take over a lot of different things of our businesses. And there's going to be a great component of that, of the automation, but so, and again, this is talk about how to hope for the best, prep for the worst. So what am I doing with AI? Okay. Number one, I believe, because again, like we can't have resistance to it. Now, when I say that, do I like AI? Do I think it's a good thing long-term? No. Right. Like it freaks me out more than, like not just for real estate shit. I'm just talking on a big level, right? Like, I don't know, man. Maybe I've just watched too many sci-fi movies, but I'm like, okay, like I'm not, if we could go back to like 1995, I think, and reset some of this shit. I don't know. But it, shoulda, woulda, coulda, right. That we're just here and there's absolutely no stopping it. Okay. So two things here with AI. Number one, we need to embrace it and know how to leverage it correctly inside of our businesses. It's going to allow you to do a lot more, less time. AI's allowed me to go out there and if I look at, okay, allows me to go out there and do, I don't know, 26 posts, so 26 piece of content, repurposed between all the different social media platforms on a daily basis. And I could do that in less than an hour, where before, I had multiple employees doing all of that stuff. So there's a lot of things that AI is going to allow, from creating content, writing content, being, using as AI assistants inside of our business. That's going to allow us to increase our capacities, do more with less, so we, from an operation standpoint, okay, embrace the AI that exists at the right times. And I've had a lot of videos on well, not a lot, but several videos on, AI and different AI platforms and that I'm using and so forth. So, like right now, as an example, I'm not using AI for follow-up, right? Like I don't think it's not there yet. I haven't seen any evidence it's there. Every time I've tried to use that in my business with, let's just say, chat bots, or, that did do to just conversions, even they just shit the bed. It's not there yet. But when it comes to helping with content creation, there's other things that's amazing, like Gamma.app, like going out there and creating badass presentations that I can never create on my own, and it creates within three freaking minutes. Our Opus clips, repurposing and cutting up all my short form content. There's a lot of great, writing applications, where it's like, okay, I can put a YouTube video, boom, it automatically transcribes it, creates the whole blog for me. There's lots of great AI platforms out there, and there's going to continue to be a lot of great AI platforms that are always, like the acceleration, like we're seeing the very, very infancy stages of this. So we need to incorporate it inside of our businesses in a smart, intelligent way. Now, the other thing, though, of this is, and again, this is just my best guess here, but I believe that it's more important now to start building up your personal brand than ever before. And that's a way to counteract AI, to develop those relationships. And because, AI, if we're not careful, can replace us and just allow us to become a commodity inside of our industry, or with, your potential clients and whatnot. So like, I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to let some AI start creating content for me. Now I'll have it help it repurpose, help it give me ideas, but I'm going to make sure that I'm creating my own brand, be my own authentic self, with my own content out there. So I'm, and again, this is just my theory here, so you can take this with a grain of salt. But I believe going forward, building your own personal brand is going to be more important than ever before because of AI. And that's how we differentiate ourselves from all the AI bullshit that's out there, the AI images and AI, whatever. Building our personal brand within our markets, within our clientele, developing, going deep in those relationships. I think that's more important than ever before, and how we hedge against that itself. Okay, so now let's talk about inflation. All right, so when it comes to inflation, and I'm going to lead inflation in with the overall possible crash, because both of those kind of go hand in hand. Right. So when we look at all this ongoing inflation, so when I talk about inflation, there's multiple different definitions of inflation. But what I'm talking about here is really just debasement of currency. Yeah, right. So debasement of currency, we talked about this, I think, before. I can't remember what I've already been covering here on the podcast, what I talked about here when it came to the lawsuits and, with the fiat currency. But dude, again, I think I talked about this, but so this will be a little bit repetitive, but 500, over 500 fiat currencies prior to the US dollar all suffered the same fate. So just think of this back, okay, in the Roman times, like what we think about, like back in the day where they had gold coins before we had fiat currency. What did they start doing? Okay, they had this gold coin. Then they started infusing a little bit of copper, right, and some other cheaper metals into that. Well, it slowly started to debase the currency, debase it more, debase it more, debase it more, debase it more, until eventually that coin was worthless. There was like all the gold was stripped out of that coin. And it became worth less. So that's the same thing that's happening. Right. Same thing that's been happening. If you look at our purchase power has just been destroyed, so it's like, okay, when you start thinking about this way, when real estate goes up, when the stock market goes up, when all these, things go up, that doesn't mean that they actually went up. That means that your purchasing power has went down. So if we look at just, 4 or 5 short years ago, life was like half as expensive. Right. So, but then with that, what took place? Okay. COVID, all this stuff, not COVID, but I mean, COVID did take place, but it was the response to COVID. I don't really believe, and I don't buy for a second that was a response to the pandemic. At least from, and again, you can call me tinfoil hat, you can call me whatever, but I don't see any evidence that anything was actually fixed after the great financial crisis. I think during the great financial crisis, that's when the system truly broke, and they've just been trying to, that's when the dam cracked, and they've just been patching holes. And this just gave them an excuse to go out there and, print a shit ton more money, right. And kick that can down the road of, because if you look at 5 months before COVID, in September 2019, there was a bailout in the banking system because of a liquidity crisis that was almost or about roughly the same magnitude as the great financial crisis. The only difference was, instead of letting Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns collapse, this time they were in front of it. Look, I just, again, and I'm not going to go do a too deep dive in this today, but I don't see any evidence that, again, it was fixed during the great financial crisis. I think that's when, again, the dam broke beyond repair. And now they're just doing everything that they possibly can to just, putting Band-Aids and putting gum in there and just keeping the dam from breaking. But eventually this dam is going to break. So with this, when it comes to inflation, right, you've got, because this is what's going to lead to the possible housing market crash, or one of the things that's going to lead to the possible housing market crash. But, inflation is devastating on the average person, right? It can be great if you're wealthy and you hold a shit ton of assets. It's great for banks, great for, a lot of, top 1% of the 1%, but kind of for everybody else, inflation is fucking nasty, right? So with this though, so if we look at, okay, everything that's taking place right now, extremely massively inflationary. I know that we're told that inflation's being fought, inflation's coming down, it's getting better, right? We went from 9% down to, 3.5%. Okay, well, just pay attention to your own life, right? Is your life only going up 3.5% a year? My guesstimate to that is no. If you really start tracking and paying attention to, each of your utility bills, to your property taxes, to your insurance, to your grocery bill, to your gas, to, like, if you start paying attention to everything, it's probably going up more like 10% year over year. Now, again, though, we're talking, we had, life is almost double as expensive. If you look at between, well, let's just call it 2020, in 2023, had at least 50% inflation just between those few years, collectively. So then, okay, if life is, let's just say they do get inflation only about 2% a year over year, and that was legitimate number, not some bullshit fabricated number like it is today. Right. But let's just say it was legitimate. That still means that life is getting 2% more expensive year after year when people can't afford life as it is today. Let me just show you guys a couple charts here. Just a couple things I want to show you where we're at here today. Let's see here. Share screen. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so if you watch my market crash video a couple weeks ago, I shared this graph with you right here, this chart. So this chart, this is from St. Louis Fed, so from the Federal Reserve. So this is their numbers, right? And so they're probably worse than what they're showing, but let's just say, okay, these numbers are accurate here. Now, this is showing consumer debt, and this is where we are at today. So this red line up here, so debt versus savings. So this red line up here is consumer debt. Blue line down here is consumer savings. So when we look at how massive of a gap this is. I know a lot of you are watching and listening to this, so you can't really see this, but at no point in time, at least that I can find evidence of in recorded history, has the gap been this large between savings rate to consumer debt rate, or have I been seeing or see a time where it's accelerated, this rapidly, for this long period of time. So what this signifies, at least to me, right, what this signifies to me is that, dude, like, people cannot sustain the inflation that's already taken place, that's already existed. Okay, so then let me just show you one other, another thing here. Okay, so if we look at this, right, so this is mortgage delinquencies in the United States right now, right? So people are like, oh man, we're not going to see foreclosures. We're not going to see. Now, this is mortgages in delinquent status, but not counting mortgages that are actually in foreclosure, right? So in each state's differently, but so here in Arizona, right, like, you got to miss 3 consecutive payments before the bank can actually, start the foreclosure proceedings and set the auction date. So this is just this is those that are in default, but the foreclosure proceedings haven't been started yet. So when you look at this FHA, this blue line up here is FHA loans. 10.81% of all FHA loans throughout the United States right now today is in default status. Now, if we look at this back and go back to the great financial crisis, right? Like, okay, back then it was just above 14%. Right now it's almost 11%. So let's just, if we look at that, okay, let's just call it 4%, even though it's less than 4%. But okay, it was only 4% higher during the great financial crisis, with FHA defaults. Now, right here during COVID or like the pandemic, you saw this spike, because you just had all these people that were able to put their homes in forbearance. They took advantage of that, and then that corrected. But this is, and look at the rate it's accelerating right now. Now, when we look at all these other, now we got all conventional loans, we got VA loans, but we got all loans collectively. You got 3.88% of all mortgages throughout the United States right now in default status. And look at they're all on the upward trend and on a fast upward trend. Look at these. If you're watching this graph, look at them spiking. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing that screen there. Well, just put that into context. 3.88% of all mortgages in the United States on residential real estate currently in default status. So just so you know, there's 85 million or just above almost 85 million, 84 million mortgages, residential mortgages throughout the United States. 3.88% of all of those is currently in default status. You can do your math on that. Okay, so we saw this. So we're starting to see massive defaults increase, in real estate. We're seeing all-time high consumer debt, and a massive evaporation of savings, right? So a gap between consumer debt versus consumer savings that we've never seen before. So, okay, when I'm talking about inflation, this is crushing most people, right? It's crushing 95% of the human population, inflation is, I should even say it's probably 99%, right? Is just fucking crushing them, so then from there, and when I say ongoing inflation, just look at the moves that are taking place, man. Like this isn't getting better. It's not when you have a federal government, like the U.S. government, when they're racking up $1 trillion of debt every 100 days. This isn't getting better. It's going to get worse. Right? It's going to get worse until it gets better. Now, I don't know what that looks like. I don't, with the amount of debt and the amount of debt that we have nationally, that we have globally, I don't know if it can, mathematically ever be paid back. So who knows? There's a lot of different options, theories, debt jubilee, a reset, most currencies when they unwind, there's just a total reset that takes place. And that could just be a reset into a digital bank, CBDC. Yeah, right. Which, it's probably more of a matter of when, not if, that's going to take place, but anyway, with this, okay, continue pressure, that is going to, and when I say is going to, it's going to make some changes. I don't know what the changes are going to be. I talked about this in the coming real estate market crash video that I did not too long ago. When my theory, my prediction, just like I said, I'm hoping for the best, planning for the worst. I'm planning on this thing crashing hard because people can only hang on for so long before boom. When you got all-time record high auto loan debt, all-time record high medical debt, all-time record high credit card debt, all-time record high mortgage debt, and we're starting to see massive delinquencies on all fronts, credit card delinquencies, mortgage delinquencies, all of this stuff. It's like, how long can the average person, when you're just fucking grinding them down and beating them, how long can they hold on, before they have to just start defaulting and like just giving these houses back? Yeah, right. And then you got what, like 90% of it's something crazy like that. You can go out there and Google it. But it's like 90% of buyers that bought post 2020, like during that pandemic boom, have massive buyer's remorse. So you think, okay, people that, oh shit, I shouldn't have bought this house, I overpaid for this house, I don't really like the location. Then when things get challenged, you think they're gonna be that much more attached to the property? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, right. Like I think they'll, even if they were, okay, you can only hold on for so long. Yeah, right. And this is what people don't realize, man, is okay, when you look at all the housing units out there, the vast majority are owned by, people, not owned by institutions. So we're seeing massive stress on landlords. We're seeing massive stress on the consumer, but it only takes Look, if you have all of a sudden, okay, you're in a subdivision of 1,000 homes, and let's just say 6 of those all of a sudden are in a bad position and they got to go out there and fire sell, or they go under foreclosure and it goes into a distress sell, okay, well, that all of a sudden just boom brings down, the whole entire, I mean, those have set the new comps. That brings down the whole entire sub. Yeah, right. It only takes about 10% of the housing market to shift the rest of the housing market, when it comes to this stuff. So when I'm talking about, okay, ongoing inflation, when an ongoing inflation, it may not crash the housing market. I don't know, right? My guess is probability is equally as good, if not higher, that it will versus that it won't, because a couple things have to, like, things just have to, either people got to, with wages, people's wages need to fucking skyrocket very fast over the next few years to be able to keep up with this cost of life, or shit's gonna break, right? Which one of those is more probable? Shit probably breaking, right? And again, I don't know, but hope for the best, plan for the worst. So I'm going to hedge for it. Right. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Okay. And these are things I'm always talking to you guys about here. But I want to do again another deep dive into this with you. Okay. So right now you need to make sure that you are a good operator. You're operating as a great operator. Like I said earlier on this podcast. Okay. Like, my prediction is, with this, and when I say prediction, I shouldn't say, I'm not trying to be Nostradamus here, right? I just wouldn't be surprised. And I think the probability is higher than not that in 10 years from now, instead of having 1.6 million realtors, there's going to be a lot less than more, right? But right, at least as of right now, what we're seeing right now is those that are good operators, those that are great operators, the only ones crushing it in this marketplace. So what does that mean? That means you are no longer winging it. That means you are treating your business as a business. You're operating with intention. It's like, okay, you've got the right strategy in place. You've got, you got an effective business plan in place. Okay, I got the right strategy. I got my processes, my systems. I'm tracking my business and eventually plugging in the right people at the right times. That's what great operators do, right? So again, they make sure they have the right client acquisition strategy in place based on the economic climate and based on what's going on for their goals. Then from there, processes, systems, tracking people. So treating our business as a business. If you were showing up to the office and you're like, oh, I'm going to work hard today, but I don't know what to do. Okay, you're winging it. You should know each and every single day what you must do to win, to go out there and make your goals a reality. That is a great sign. I mean, those are two signs. Are you tracking your numbers? And then number two, okay, do you know each and every single day exactly what precisely you must do to make your goals a reality, to go out there and win? If you do not know those two things or have those two things in place, okay, like, that's a very good sign that you're winging it and not a great operator. Okay, so your ability to read markets. Right. So to do this, it's just to understand there's no such thing as a good market or a bad market. Understand the market is good for some. Oh, the market is always great for somebody. It's our job as real estate professionals to identify whom the market is good for, pivot, adapt accordingly, to whom that market is great for with our marketing, prospecting efforts. So, okay, whether the market, like, you're going to have up markets, down markets, everything in between. So, okay, you get really damn good at going out there and servicing and acquiring traditional business. You get damn good at acquiring and servicing investor business. You get damn good at acquiring and servicing distressed business. One of those is always going to be stronger. Then you have to have the ability to go out there and identify whom the market is currently good for and pivot accordingly to those. So like, here's an example. 3 years ago, absentee owners was not even on my radar. I had so many investors buying and people buying these secondary homes or short-term vacation rentals or long-term buy and holds. All the, there's kind of 4 niches that get thrown in the absentee owner bucket. Like, going after absentee owners to get listings wasn't even on my radar 3 years ago, because they were buyers, not necessarily sellers. Okay, well, last couple of years, things have changed dramatically. Really, over the last 18 months, this has become a great niche to go out there and target, that is needing to sell because they're experiencing a significant amount of pain now that the climate has changed and the economic climate has changed. So that's been a big shift. Right. So, okay, like during, so if you look at absentee owners right now, I won't get into the reason as to why that's a great niche, but, okay, we're targeting those where 3 years ago I wasn't. So I'm always, like, my strategies are going to change over time based on the marketplace. Right. Then, okay, another niche that I'm going after right now, first time in my career that I've really focused on both of these niches at the rate that we are right now on my team, because these are two of my favorite niches in this market. Two of my favorite. I've got other favorites too. But divorces. Okay, number one reason for divorce is financial hardships. Okay, right now, like you saw the graphs, dude, financial hardship. It's life is harder financially on all of our, like this is the hardest financial time that the vast majority of people have ever experienced in their lifetime, right? Um, um, so okay, divorces are skyrocketing. That's a great rich right now. So again, your ability to go out there and read markets and identify whom that market is best for, or it may not be, like that sucks a situation, people going through divorce, but who is it best for you to target that has the highest probability of needing your services in the market? Okay, so then from there, you got to get brilliant at client acquisition, right? So when I talk about client acquisition, you hear me talk about this on the podcast, but this is what I call a three-legged stool. So why do I call it three-legged stool? If one of the legs falls off, boom, that thing falls over. So three-legged stool is this strategy. So strategy is identified when it comes to client acquisition, meaning your ability to go out there and generate more clients than you can handle in any given market. So we're talking about strategy is, okay, who has the highest probability of buying or selling in this given economic climate in this given market? Okay, so who has the highest probability of buying or selling in this market? Okay, like right now in this market, at least as of me recording this, March 11th, I'm not doing circle prospecting in this market. I'm not going to necessarily go out there and start a new geo farm in this market. I'm not going to do out the, right? Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, right. They don't have the highest probability to need my service in this market. Now, if you already have those things established, that's one thing. I'm talking about adding new things. Okay, I'm going to go after, if I want listings, which we all should be focusing on right now for reasons that we already talked about before. But okay, I'm going to go after those, divorces. I'm going to go after absentee owners. I'm going to go after pre-foreclosure. I'm going to go after expireds, FSBOs, right? Okay, so strategy. Who has the highest probability of needing your services in this given climate that we are in? Then we got process. That's the second leg of the stool. Process is how long and how frequent must you follow up to maximize conversions. Look, when we're in the economic climate that we are in right now, most unaffordable time to ever be alive as a U.S. citizen, the most unaffordable time to ever go out there and acquire real estate when adjusted for inflation, and then the most competitive real estate landscape that we've ever seen when you factor in number of transactions, number of listings versus the number of realtor count, right now, like you've got to be laser target. You got to operate like a sniper, not shotgunning shit out. You got to operate like you have a sniper scope, right? So we got to make sure that low-hanging fruit is dried up. We got to make sure that we are doing everything we can to maximize and optimize conversions. So this is why, okay, we got to target the right people. We got to then make sure that we have the right, we're following up long enough and frequently enough to maximize conversions. And then the third leg of that stool is skill set. Skill set is what you do when you do, like how good you are at the thing that you do. Right. So skill set, like, dude, you got to become damn good at sales, damn good at conversations. Right? How do you have effective conversations to influence the behavior that you need to influence so you can set more appointments, convert those appointments? That's what I'm talking about, skill set. Like how good are you, on the phone? How good are you at setting those appointments, selling value to appointment, conducting that appointment? How good are you at your pre-framing, reframing, identifying true root core objections and concerns and navigating through those and removing sales resistance? And again, selling the value of the appointment so you can set the appointment, then confirming the appointment, then showing up and conducting the appointment and leading them through to becoming a client. All of those things. Yeah. I mean, process is in there a little bit. Right. But those really boil down to skill set. Right. So that's why I call it a three-legged stool. If one of these is missing, you're going to shit the bed. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that, they're targeting the right people. But either their process is bad or their skill set is bad and they just get shitty, terrible conversions. Or maybe they got a good process and their skill set's okay, but they're targeting the wrong people based on the market. So all three of these must come together. Otherwise, you are going to experience a shit ton of resistance and go out there and struggle. And client acquisition, all these things are important, but client acquisition is like the first thing that you need to get dialed in your business. Because if you want to continue to grow and scale, you have to have the ability to go out there and gather and gain more customers than you can go out there and handle. Okay, so then last thing I'm going to say here is this. Just make sure that you're there's in business and in life, there's times of peace, there's times of war. This is a wartime for business. Right, we just got out of 2012 to middle 2022, longest bull market recorded history, longest economic expansion recorded history, longest real estate expansion recorded history. That was easy street. You could kind of show up, kind of work hard, kind of be consistent, and go out there and make a ton of money. And look, if you just got into business and you missed that market, okay, cool. Right? Like, apologize, you missed that. That longest bull market recorded history. But the blessing is you didn't set bad habits. So don't get down on yourself. Right. And a lot of people start their time during times of war. A lot of people, started their business during 2008, 2009, whatever. But when I talk about, you have times of peace. So that was a decade long of peace where, again, it was just freaking easy. It was easy street. Now this is time of war. right now is a time of war. So you got to go out there and fight, and you keep fighting until you are victorious at fighting that war. So you got times where shit's a little bit easier. Just think of it like the seasons, man. You got spring, you got summer. This is fucking winter. And in my guesstimation, we are in the very beginning phase of winter. Shit's going to get a lot nastier and a lot uglier before it gets better. You got to be prepped for it. So we got to work hard. We got to work smart. We got to be more focused. We got to be more intentional, than we have before. This is not a time to be focused on balance or like I talk to people, oh, I want this, man, I was talking to somebody the other day that, they're telling me, they need money by this time and they want to work really hard and they're willing to do whatever it takes, but they wanted to go out there and do a long-term, social media strategy. And I was like, hey, look, so I love social media too. And I do that too. And I love it, man. And go out there and do that. But that's more your 2025 plan versus 2020. If you need to hit this number on the timeline that you're telling me, on the date that you're telling me, if that is a must for you, yeah, let's get the social media stuff cranking for you. But in addition to that, you're going to need to do XYZ, which is more prospecting based activities. That's going to lead to more now money making activities. But then the person, I'm just not willing to do that. Okay. Yeah, right. But like in times of war, you got to be willing to do the shit that maybe you don't want to do or others aren't willing to do. Otherwise, right, like probably going to go broke, right? And it doesn't need to be indefinite. Again, this too shall pass. But just be prepared for that. Times of war, you got to be willing to do fucking shit that you don't have to do during times of peace. So just again, operate more intentionally, be more focused. Go out there and get, because like I said earlier, man, the market share is yours to be had. This is going to be huge. When this thing turns and everything does eventually correct, this too shall pass. And when there's a hell of a lot less realtor count and shit levels out, then boom, there's going to be massive market share to be had. And I think there's going to be massive market share, even if low transaction volume stays here forever. As more and more realtors drop out, that will not just level itself out, but create more opportunity because more and more aren't going to be able to make it through these times. All right, so you guys, truly appreciate you watching. Hopefully this was helpful. And again, if you need my help, if you want my help, if you are struggling, or maybe you're not struggling, you just do not know exactly what you need to do to get your business from where you're at to where you want to go, again, schedule a 100% free, 100% zero pressure coaching call with me personally. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. If you want to take advantage of this, and look, maybe you're kicking ass in your business, and like I said, you just want a second set of eyes on your business. Just so you guys know, I mean, I coach a lot of individual agents, but 80% of my coaching clients are team leaders, broker owners at a very high level that are out there popping 5, 6, plus 100 deals on an annual basis. So regardless of what level that you're at, I can help you get dialed in and just, again, doesn't hurt to go out there and just talk with another, great operator like yourself, somebody that's been doing this for a long time that might just be able to give you a different perspective, and we can just mastermind on that call too. So, and again, these aren't going to be forever, just a very limited brief of time. I'm not putting an end date on this, but my best guess is I probably got, I don't know, maybe another month of doing these, maybe a little bit long. I don't know yet. But getting busy with some other projects. So, these are going to be very temporary. So if you want to take advantage of that, www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Peace. Keep crushing it.